people in the entire world know the recipe for this. Let's talk about Chartreuse, what it is, why it's hard to find, and the difference between its core lineup. So first things first, if you're French, my apologies for the pronunciation. While these monks have monasteries scattered across the globe, this magical bottle right here is only made at their Agnois distillery in France. And the story begins with the Marshal of France. His name was Francois, and I'm gonna put his last name right here. And he was on this quest to, find the fabled elixir of life. So although it's unclear where he actually found the recipe, it's believed that maybe it did come from him. And listen, he lived until he was like 97 years old, so back then that is crazy, so maybe it did work. He then passed the recipe in a manuscript to the Carthusian monks, who held that manuscript for over 130 years. And that's when we have brother Jérôme Maubec, a Carthusian monk and apothecary, who finally deciphered the manuscript and created the recipe. On his deathbed, he then shared it with another monk, brother Antoine Dupuis. He then perfected that formula, and it hasn't changed since then, since 1764. Initially, it was sold by some monks, but then came the French Revolution in 1789, which forced the monks out of France for decades. They returned back then in 1840, and brother Bruno Jacquet was tasked with tweaking the recipe a little bit and creating a yellow-colored elixir. And then the yellow Chartreuse was born. The secret and the manuscript have survived revolutions, fires, pandemics, and even the French government's attempt to actually nationalize it. So the monks fled to Spain around 1904, where they continued to make Chartreuse. The government did attempt to recreate the brand, but that was a total failure. Today, since the 1940s, the monks are back in the French Alps, where they're still creating this incredible elixir with the same ancient recipe. And both the green and yellow Chartreuse here contain 130 different plants in that recipe. Of course, we're never gonna know which 130 plants. The cool thing is that the colors here are 100% natural. The green comes from chlorophyll, while the yellow right here comes from saffron. And the key differences between green and yellow are: green Chartreuse is made from a neutral beet sugar-based spirit, and it sits at 55 ABV. The yellow Chartreuse here, on the other hand, is made from a grape-based spirit, and it sits at 43 ABV. So why is Chartreuse so hard to find? Well, it's made by monks who live by the vows of silence and solitude. This is their calling, their life's purpose, and it's been like that for nearly 1,000 years. And the recent surge in that popularity is not gonna change that. It shouldn't change that. So they won't expand the production or compromise their values to meet that demand. And honestly, I love that. So there is no shortage, just this ever-growing demand. And I think sometimes it's just hard for the American brain to not meet that demand with more and more supply, whatever the cost. But I absolutely love it just as much as I love this green Chartreuse right here. Let me know what other spirits you'd like me to talk about. Cheers.